Hello folks, welcome to Legacy IS Academy. In this video, we will be discussing a current affair topic presented to you by faculty Sushma Keti. So what is the topic that we will be looking into today? Russia is selling gold. Now before we get into this video, if you're someone who likes local news, national news, international news, then definitely subscribe to Legacy IS Academy channel because we provide deep insights into all of these topics. Now, coming back to the video. Russia is selling gold. Now, why is Russia selling a gold? Because usually central banks will keep buying gold, selling gold, it happens. Why is Russia selling gold important from your UPSC perspective, or why is it that important to even discuss about it in the first place? Let me tell you about one simple rule your central banks will follow everywhere. This is like a golden rule, consider it like this. Usually, central banks will buy gold when the prices are low. Okay, they will sell gold when the prices are very high. So this helps them keep a good amount of liquidity. Now Russia is selling gold at a time where other central banks are buying gold. Understanding? First thing. The Russia selling gold has been to an extent where it is slowly depleting its resources. Now you may wonder why, what has happened to Russia so much so that it has to deplete its resources and while everyone are trying to accumulate it. This story is not just about Russia but many other countries or central banks which are trying to sell gold now. This is contrary to what the convention is. Buy when price is low, sell when price is high. Why? Is the answer that showcases how the present world is operating in this scenario. So let me take you back a little bit. 2022, Russia-Ukraine war started. We are as of now in 2026. When your Russia-Ukraine war started, few things you have to understand is, let me just tell you one more important thing. The background, I've set it up now. What is that? 2022 Russia-Ukraine war started. Yes, as of now we are in 2026, it's selling gold. Now just one more backdrop is, from the period of time, from 2002 to your 2015 or lastly 25 tak also you can take, okay, but I am going to take only these two chunks of timeline. 2002 to 2015 tak, your Russia was vastly accumulating gold. It was accumulating a lot of gold. Then something happened that changed few things. Okay, and that strengthened and set a precedent for your present scenarios in 2026. What is that? Russia's annexation of Crimea. With this, what happened means your US put a freeze on assets of Russia. Now this showcase that technically that should not happen, understanding, but your US did use its hard power, soft power, etc., and it put a freeze on Russian assets. That point of time was an eye-opener, even though it wasn't too big of a scale like how it is now. It was an eye-opener, stating that no, we need to diversify our reserves, diversify our portfolio if we should be moving away from your USA's control or USA's thumb. This was when the gold accumulation was also happening largely. Now coming back to 2022, Russia-Ukraine war started. 2026, still no solution for this. But what happened was, your Russia is constantly engaged in this war that seems to be having a no dead end in near-term sight. Which means in order to finance itself, it needs money from somewhere. Yes, that is why it started selling gold. Now we may wonder, why is there no other source that Russia can get money from? Yes, Russia can get abundantly good amount of money from one source, that is its oil and strategic reserves. But your US put sanctions on that also. One target is us, India itself. So let me now break it down. Russia is in an active war with Ukraine. It needs money to refinance itself. Also, there is a question of balance of payment crisis. Understanding? Otherwise, if you don't honor your commitments or honor your borrowings, and eventually the currency itself will fall, the value will fall. Internationally, Russia's strategic, let's say, your diplomatic hold, your pressure hold, etc., everything will fall. That will be detrimental to Russia, especially when it is in time of war. So for Russia now, there are international reserves, which is frozen by your USA. And then there is good amount of way it can get money, that is through your Russian oil. India is one of the good amount of purchasers of Russian oil, but what did your US tell? You should have seen 2026, 25, 24. Your US kept on accusing countries like India, telling you are financing the war. Many members have even claimed and accused blatantly, like this, stating that India is financing the war by buying Russian oil. So they cut off all the contacts with your Russian buying oil from now. So they cut off your reserved assets. They cut off your energy, whatever money that used to come from your energy. Now, what is the other way that Russia can finance itself? Gold. Okay, this is why your Russia is selling gold. Now, when I started the video, I also told you something, that this is not just the story of Russia, but also of many other various countries. Why? Because we are actively, as of now in 2026, also in your Iran war, where there is a blockade on Strait of Hormuz, and also there is huge amount of oil crunch. Oil prices are rising. Now, in order to finance that oil, because there it is not just one or two countries that is dependent on your energy. Majority countries are dependent on your energy. India, China, Japan, all of these countries. So now we cannot buy oil from Russia. We are not able to get oil from Iran. So this has created a crunch and your price of oil going very higher. Understanding? So this has what led countries to sell gold in the first place. Okay. So how much has Russia sold? 22 tons of gold has been sold. 22,000 kilos of gold has been sold. This has created a budget deficit of 60 billion plus, and it has led to a loss because of all the sanctions put on Russian oil purchase. It has led to a negative 45% of your energy money that has to come into Russia. So like I told, Russia has sold 22 tons of gold in 2026, wherein its gold reserves have fallen to 74.1 million troy approximately. Now, if you see with regarding to Russia, Russia is one of the five, okay, top gold holders. Now, the total gold reserves are reduced to 2,304 tons. All these changes are from your ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, started from your 2022. So budget deficit for the first quarter of 2026 shows roughly around 60 billion. Revenue change has decreased from 8.2%. Expenditure change has increased to 75%, 17%. The oil and gas revenue has fallen down significantly by 45%. Why? Because of the sanctions imposed on Russia. Now let's say why Russia is selling gold. Multiple reasons. First one, rising fiscal deficit. Defense spending is needed, war spending is needed, financing the war is needed. Understanding? And next is impact of Western sanctions. Your EU has imposed sanctions, US has imposed sanctions, your foreign assets are reserved, and also they, because of this reserve, they are having very limited access to their dollars. And the only thing that you can turn to, the golden rule is always gold is the last resort asset. So they are moving towards that. Another thing is your fall in energy booking revenues. Oil and gas is the, you can even call it as the backbone of Russian economy. That itself is hurt now because of your severe Western sanctions. Okay. So this showcases that they need alternate funding to make sure this gap has to be filled. And also there is liquidity management. Bank of Russia is trying to manage the liquidity. Understanding? So how they are trying to do is they have to stabilize the government borrowing also on one side. This leads to high global gold prices. So the historic concept of buy at low, sell at high is not happening right now, is because of these scenarios. Now, The currency support of ruble is also very much needed. Yes, otherwise it will lose its credibility in international mechanisms. And also the confidence of currency is extremely important when it is a sanction hit economy. Understanding, and also they're trying to do this in order to reduce their dependence on your US assets. Now, with respect to your global trends, like I told you, central banks buy gold when prices are low, sell gold when prices are high. And also your gold is seen as a safe haven asset. But Russia's concept is, instead of buying now, it is selling. Why? We have discussed the features. This shows how sustainable is your war financing. And remember one more keyword here that I would like to use: sustainable use of prolonged war financing. That is where the keyword lies with. Prolonged war financing is not sustainable in the longer term. Understanding this shows that your sanctions and how your assets try to act, and how different kind of assets act with regarding to your sanctions, and how important is it to diversify your portfolio, or how a money comes into a country. So if you see, there is also a base balance of payment concept, meaning what? Country's payments to the world exceeds how much it receives. Okay. Second thing is fiscal deficit financing. That is, in order to balance between your government spending and your expenditure, or your finances coming in. Okay. The revenue, government revenue and expenditure, if you have to finance, then that is your fiscal deficit. Which rises high is what depends. Reserve diversification. This US sanctions showcases that it is very important to diversify your assets, such as your gold, currency, etc., so as to reduce the risk which will, let's say, bring about from just relying on one single asset. Understanding? Next is your liquidity management, so to make sure that sufficient cash flow has to be there in the country. Last is sanctions economy. As of now, your Russia is a sanctions economy, sanctioned by EU, sanctioned by US, sanctioned by majority of the global economies to put pressure on your Russia to end the war. And also over reliance on just one commodity. Like I told you, oil and gas is your backbone of Russian economy. And at this point of time, they have tried to check that itself. Okay. So this shows that you have to diversify on other assets. So what are its implications when Russia is doing this? First, in short-term war, yes, it will help fund your war expenditure. It will help with respect to your welfare spending, that is, balance between your government spending. In the long term, this will decline your strategic reserve. Yes, because it is reducing your very important asset. And this will reduce your financial security, and also it will erode that buffer that you have kept for the future risks. Okay. And lastly, signal of economic stress, weakened revenue, and also prolonged war puts a dent in the economy on the longer haul. How is the global gold market being impacted? Because they're selling more, there is increased amount of supply also there. This may affect the gold prices in the short term. Understanding? And like we said, one important aspect, if we have to take about gold as an asset, most of the time, be it from your individual families to your top central banks, it is seen as a last resort, or your last resort asset in times of crisis. And you can rely on nothing, you can rely on these kind of assets. So this shows how much of a limitation your countries face with respect to your assets or reserves under your sanctions. Now we have to wait and watch how all these wars will unfold, and how exactly will it alter the course of future chain of actions to happen. With this, we come to the end of the content. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, share it along with your friends. Thank you.